Good evening and welcome to my end of the week recap video here for Apple and plan ahead for next week. First of all, the trades that I was in, how I've managed them and what I've taken off the table. 187.5 calls here on Thursday, took some off up here at 292. Price action did dip below the 186.5 level I notified on my previous video, but this volume down here came in at the low of that move. I held through it, took some off, bounced back down, back at this level, so I held overnight again. And today I closed that out at $4. So overall, saved that trade, made a little bit of profit on it, and it turned out very nice. Late in the day on Thursday, I also took the weekly 187.5 calls here at 47 cents, was an overnight weekly play. Nice gap up, took half off here at 94 just for to lock in 100%. The other half took me out at 116 up here. It looked like it was going to roll over on a lower time frame, so I just went ahead and locked it in. Being a Friday and weekly options, there's no point in holding it much longer than I had to. In hindsight, of course, that was a little bit premature of a move as those did hit 250, almost 260 by end of the day, probably even closer to $3 a contract by the end of the day here on this pop. Later on in the day, I also got into some 20 July 210 calls at 28 cents. Those are a play for this flag pattern to move up to the measured move of about 215. Hopefully, I gave myself enough time by going out into into July. If not, that's okay. I'll take whatever profit does show itself here in the near future. Now, as far as this pattern over here on the daily time frame, volume at least implies there's enough participation to break this flag. Ideally, I want to see it over this 190.37, 190.40 area to confirm that this range is now broken and we're ready for another leg up. Probably going to get a little bit of a pullback tomorrow, or excuse me, on Monday. So if that is the case, the plans I'm going to be looking for is a pullback to the 8 EMA, which right now it's 188. Probably going to open up around 188.75, maybe 189-ish area. It's a very strong move up and should pull that 8 EMA up with it. I'll look for 190 calls approximately 2 weeks out in the future. If it pulls back further than that, I will look for 185.5 calls, 185 calls about 2 weeks out in the future here at the 21 EMA. A break above this 190.5 level on significant volume, and just like the S&P plan, I'll look for an open higher, come back, retest for an entry for a move higher. At that point, I'll look for 190 calls. About 2 weeks out in the future as well. It's basically the same play as here. Target, there really is nothing to gauge a target off of up here other than that measured move. But 200 will likely have a very significant amount of sellers. Nice huge round number. There's going to be participants that want to say, oh, I sold the 200 level in Apple and made some profit. So bulls and bears are always battling. The bears at this point just have to wait and pick their spots, because if we break 190.40, bulls are definitely still in control. I will also say on the other side of the coin, if price action does start to roll down through here, breaks below 189.5 level, I'll probably try some 190 puts versus this upper high, simply because false moves lead to fast moves, and if this is a false flag breakout, a move back down here below 189.5 will likely trigger a lot of stops. There's a lot of volume here, so the stop losses are going to be for a breakout trade, which would be just below this pattern. Once those start to trigger, I'd expect to see somewhat of a support bounce around this 188, 188.5 level, maybe a dead cat bounce, start rolling back over, make one of those H sell setups, break down below 188, come down, test this lower end of the wedge, and maybe even all the way down here to the 21 EMA. It's a $5 move, which is not impossible for Apple, especially if there's a lot of participants on the wrong side of the trade. Pretty much always a perma bull, so I do want to see it go higher. So that's going to be my main focus. My major bias is to play for the upside. For now, that's going to be my trade plan for Apple going forward next week. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Come join us at the Trade Crew chat room. It is free. Have a good weekend and good luck.